the Acura Integra. A car so beloved that even after Acura killed it, Honda fans kept shouting its name like it was a resurrectable Pokemon. Pop-up headlights, high-revving VTEC engines, tuner culture, Gran Turismo stardom, theft rates that made insurance companies cry. This is one of the most iconic sport compacts in history. Today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive, development history, specs, year-by-year sales, pricing with inflation, and how the Integra went from 80s upstart to 90s legend to a 2020s comeback kid. Welcome to Auto Chatter, where facts, speculation, and opinion will be given. Leave a like, please, if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Watch another vid after, and thank you for those who have given the channel continued support. Now, let us begin. It's 1986. Top Gun is huge, and Take On Me is stuck in Americans' brains. And Acura, the brand new luxury division of Honda, needs a small, sporty, premium car to launch the brand because the legend alone wouldn't be enough. Ask Sterling or Mercure why that was a bad idea. Anyway, enter the Acura Integra, a fancier Civic, with pop-up headlights. They weren't optional, they were not trim-specific, they were simply the law of the land. As far as development, Honda wanted for this car a premium Civic underpinnings, front-wheel drive, lightweight construction, a rev-happy dual-overhead cam 16-valve engine, and fit and finish good enough to embarrass 1980s American cars, which wasn't really hard then. As far as the engines, it had a 1.6-liter dual-overhead cam 16-valve with 113 ponies, redlined around 6,800 RPMs, 5-speed manual or 4-speed auto, curb weight was a light 2,300 pounds to start, had multi-point fuel injection, era where many cars still had carburetors, leaf springs, and dashboards that smelled permanently like crayons. In Japan, a year earlier than Acura's launch, it was called a Honda Quint Integra. Acura wasn't a thing in the land of the rising sun, and it still isn't to this day. Honda had a partnership with British Rover then, and both were actually involved with what would become the Legend and its Sterling cousin sold in the US. Rover had rebadged Civics in the 80s, and their version of the new Integra would be too, called a Rover 416i, and was also sold in Australia. Anyway, Acura's launch year was wild in the US. Total 86 Integra sales was about 76,000. Total Gen 1 sales altogether from 86 to 89 was about 228,000. Acura sold so many Integras early on that some people thought it was the only Acura model. Car and Driver loved the car, and Integras made their 10 best list for 1987, 1988, and it was present for a good chunk of their 90s lists too. Body styles in the US was 2-doors or 5-door hatches. 0 to 60 was in the mid 8-second range, respectable for the class. Being a Honda with sporty chops, the handling was also first rate. Pricing to start in 86 was about 10 grand, which adjusted for inflation today is more like 27. It was considered a good deal, especially compared to a new car today that starts around 27 grand, but is probably a base model crossover with 3 cylinders and artificial engine noise. For the 90 model year, Nintendo Game Boy is everywhere, Home Alone teaches us valuable lessons about holiday burglary defense, and Acura releases the second-gen Integra. It was now sleeker, lower, and more aerodynamic, but pop-up headlights are gone. The design was more refined, better interior, more modern aero, and still very 1990s JDM cool. Base models got the 1.8-liter B-Series 4-cylinder, 130 horsepower in LS or GS trim. There was a higher compression GS engine with 140. Curb weight was now about 2,500 pounds. Now the 92 and 93 GSR is where things get a little more serious. It had a B17A1 engine, rated at 160 horsepower and had an 8,000 RPM redline. Mid-6s to low 7s, 0 to 60 time. And it was the smallest displacement VTEC engine sold in America. This is Honda's variable valve timing technology, in case you don't know. The kind of engine that screamed like it chugged 2 Surge sodas. The torque was low, so exploring the rev band was mandatory. Short shifting or thinking you had low-end punch, a lot of domestic cars had, would lead to disappointment quickly. Being a Honda product, the manual had one of the best shifters in the business too. It's estimated only about 5,000 were imported to North America over those 2 model years. Driving a GSR in 1992 made you feel like Paul Rudd in Clueless, inexplicably cool and unbothered. Sales from 90 to 93 combined was about 300,000 for the Integra, so an average of 70 to 80,000 a year. It was outselling many sports cars 3-1. Was it a sports car? No, but this sport compact was certainly cross-shopped with some. Pricing for 1990 started about 12 grand, which today is about 26,500. Now, 1994 brings huge changes. They now have the iconic 4 oval eye headlights that made the car look permanently surprised for starters, like it had just heard about Blockbuster's $2 a day late fees. In Japan, the Spider Eye front end wasn't popular and was revised the following year. Over there, it now looked more like an Accord or Civic in the front, so they made it look boring. The design was rounded, modern, and aerodynamic. 2-door coupes or 4-door sedans. Lightweight, still 2,500, but it did go up to about 2,650 pounds. Interior, still nicely Honda simple. Engine-wise, the LS and GS had a 142 horsepower 4. The GSR was 170 horsepower. The high-revving VTEC goodness, 8,100 RPM redline, was on the GSR too. And driving one of those was like picking up a superstar in Mario Kart. Sales-wise, 94 was about 82,700. 95 got up to 89,200. 96 dropped a bit to 80,000. 97, 78,500. 98 down to 67,300. 99, 57,900. 2000, 32,100. And 2001, only 18,400 sold. Total Gen 3 sales, though, was a little over 500,000. Now, did you notice the 98 to 2001 drop? That's when SUVs took over faster than Pokemon cards in a cafeteria. A lot of sport compacts and 2-door personal luxury coupes were discontinued around this time, but Acura stayed put. Times were changing, and Acura's SUV presence before the MDX debuted for '01 was limited. The only thing they had was a rebadged Isuzu Trooper called an SLX. But there is another chapter to this generation, and that would be the Holy Grail, the Type R. A car so pure, so precise, so yellow. People still talk about it like it's a mythical creature. Spec-wise, it had a hand-built 1.8-liter B18 C5 4-cylinder, rated at 195 horsepower, 8,400 RPM redline, 0 to 60 was yours in the low 6s, limited slip differential, stiffer chassis, seam-welded frame, big wing, big brakes, and big dreams. It was basically Dragon Ball Z in car form, always screaming, always glowing. Sales for these, 1997 only 320, 98 about 1,000, 2000 1,350, 2001 1,173. Total US Type R sales about 3,843 units. Total amount of them stolen, probably all of them. Prices in 97 started at about 23,000, which is about 43,000 today. Actual resale today, we only accept kidneys. Not kidding, as someone in 2025 paid over 200 grand for a 4,800 mile 2001 Screaming Yellow model.
Surely you can't be serious.
That seems beyond nuts to me for basically the nicest Honda Civic ever made at the time. But anyway, Acura retired the Integra name for the next gen because early 2000s branding departments were obsessed with random letters. Acura was already phasing in this across their lineup, and the Integra was the last holdout. Spoiler alert, it may be again. Enter the Acura RSX. It debuted in the same era as the Fast and the Furious, so half of them immediately got unpainted body kits and neon underglow. Engines was a base 2-liter K28.3 rated at 160 horses. The Type S was 200 to 210 horsepower, as it was later revised, screamed 8,000 RPMs, and it was considered one of the best 4-cylinder engines ever. 0 to 60 was in the mid-6s. The K20 became the Beyonce of engine swaps. Everyone wanted one, everybody tried to sing like it, and few could. It was only available in a 2-door body style now. It was also now heavier with a little more emphasis on comfort, so the horsepower increase basically maintained performance numbers from before. Sales-wise, for 02 was about 30,000, 03 33,000, 04 29,000, so the pattern so far is pretty solid. For 05 it dipped to 21,000 and 06 was only 12,000. Total RSX sales, about 125,000. Car and Driver put them on their 10 best list for 2002 and 2003. Base price started about 20,000, which is about 35,000 today. Type S was 23,000 to start, which is more like 36 today. RSX sales tapered off as crossovers and trucks were still rapidly taking sales from cars. Even sedans were being threatened, so 2-door sport compacts had even less of a chance. Honda dropped the car after 2006, leaving the TSX as the new entry-level Acura. It was basically a Japanese-European Honda Accord with an Acura grille. There's also a fun side note. The RSX name is due to return as a coupe SUV thing for 2026. Think Nissan Juke, but not as ugly and battery-powered. So now it's 2007. The Integra name's gone, the RSX is gone. Honda fans mourn for 15 years. This was like when your favorite show gets canceled on a cliffhanger, or when McDonald's got rid of the snack wrap. At the very least, Honda dealers had Civic SIs to sell you. But a funny thing happened in the 2020s. The Integra returns. Not as a 90s time capsule, but as a modern premium hatchback for adults who now pay taxes and complain about coffee prices. Its mission was still similar though as before, a Civic-based car with a luxury badge and a bit more refinement. Prices range from about $32,000 to start to over $53,000 for a Type S. Nostalgia dictated bringing back the Integra name, as it's the only Acura sold that isn't a bunch of letters. Again. Engines started with a 200 horsepower turbo, 1.5 liter. A manual is available. Tech-packed interior, practical 5-door design, and only that. Acura's take on the current Civic Si as they are cousins. Now the Type S has a 320 horse 2-liter, 0 to 60 in the low 5s, 6-speed manual, wide body, Brembos, basically a Civic Type R that went to business school. Slightly softer, slightly more power, but is it worth $5,000 more? I'm not a front-wheel drive fan, but these two cars, performance-wise, managed to pull it off with style. Still, I'd rather have a Nissan Z Performance Edition for what a Type S costs. Sales-wise, for 2023, Acura sold about 31,000 of these. In 2024, about the same, 28 to 30,000 range. Pretty good considering the driving trends of today. Type S market share is about 5 to 7% of annual Integra sales, which is $1,500 to $2,000 a year. But over 1.1 million Integras and RSXs were sold. It's a cultural icon, a motorsport hero, a tuner legend, a Gran Turismo all-star, and proof that no matter how old we get, we're still 17 inside, just with worse knees and better credit. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you like this one. The channel seems to favor domestics, but I'm stubborn. I haven't done an Acura yet either, so there was that too. Until next time, I'll be keeping the headlights on for you, and chatter out.